welcome to another episode of Talk TV Motorsport for your Friday night. I'm Louise.
And I'm Richard.
Well, tonight we're going to get a little bit dirty, aren't we, Richard?
Are we? We were saving that for after the show, though.
No, I mean the other two are dirty.
Ah, right, yes, we're taking you off the dirt, off the bitumen and onto the dirt tonight as we take you to the Waikerie Speedway for some 360 sprint car action. We also take you to the Morgan Dirt Kart Club, also in the Riverland, for some 125cc karting action and a very exciting race from there. And joining us in the studio, father and son team of Dennis and Michael Burford will join us and chat about their sprint car racing and dirt kart racing exploits. It's a full show ahead.
Yes, it should be exciting. We love the Riverland and we love our motorsport, so it should be an interesting event down at Morgan.
Lots of great speedway action up in the Riverland. There was no exception last weekend when the Waikerie Speedway hosted the 360 Sprint Car Championship round. Good field of 10 cars entered and some hot racing produced throughout the night, and thanks to Paris Charles and the Waikerie Speedway organising people, we've managed to get the footage from that and an entertaining night's racing. But great to see some Speedway on Talk TV as well.
Oh, for sure. It's something different. We've looked a lot at, obviously, at the V8s and all of that great stuff, but it's good to get some different racing in.
Well, Speedway, of course, very, very big over the summer in Australia with the World Series Sprint Cars, and in the off-season we saw the World of Outlaws Championship here as well, all the big guns from the United States. Let's take you now, though, to Waikerie Speedway, I should say, for the 360 Speedway round. Your commentators, Richard Crale and Paris Charles. Hello and welcome to Sunline Speedway at Waikerie. Richard Crale and Paris Charles with you, looking at highlights of the sprint races here at Waikerie Speedway for the Croft Construction 360 Sprint Car Championships. Paris Charles.
Yes, Richard, it's great to be here. Of course, the air tonight quite chilly, but the action on the track should be red hot.
Certainly should. We're looking at highlights of race one. Great start by Evans. Chippendale ran wide, and away through this race, Evans led Moore Bunker, who got past Chippendale as they ran through. But it was Evans, the dominant person through this race, and ended up taking a closely fought race victory at the end there. Held on from Tony Mill at the end. Race two, great start by Vanderstelt. Ramsey lost a lot of pace and made a very poor start.
Of course, Ramsey, it's first time in the car for the season, so for him it's just a shakedown, but Craig Vanderstelt showing a lot of his experience, of course, running at Parramatta Speedway over there in Sydney, and really has come on quite well as a racer over the last few years aboard the Croft Construction, actually sponsored Cool Chassis.
Running very, very high in the national rankings as well. Craig took a very strong race victory in heat number 2. Running on to race 3 now. A close start. Bunker made a very, very good lead, or good start I should say, and ran around the outside of one and led them down the backstretch.
Yeah, of course, Bunker, the wily veteran himself, you can see here he's pulled out, and the rest of the field there have been caught up behind Daryl Gurin, but here comes Tony Mule looking for a way around. Of course, Tony, reigning Australia 3 in the 360s, and had a fantastic World Series Sprint Car rookie season this year. Made his way around, got into second, and tried to chase down Bunker, but the flag beat him to the finish.
And Bunker ending up taking a very strong race victory there. Of course, one of the mainstays of the South Australian sprint car scene. Race 4, great start by Burford, and moved in, of course, Burford in the Lightning Karts machine, a very well-known livery in local speedway terms.
Yeah, Dennis Burford been around a long time, of course, and you can see there Craig Vanderstelt hot on his hammer, just looking for a line through. Dennis slightly got caught up behind Alex Ramsey there. Alex still finding his feet in the sprint cars, but doing a good job to get round the track. And here comes Vanderstelt, so close.
This is a great battle between those two that waged most of that sprint race. Burford ending up just getting across the line at the end. Heat 5, and a very clean start for the entire field. The field sort of spread themselves out here at Waikerie.
Yeah, Craig Vanderstelt managed to skip away there over Tony Mule, and just in behind Tony, we saw earlier, is the reigning South Australian champion Gary Chippendale from Victoria. There's Gary now coming down the front straight into turn 1, hunting down a very, very desperate Tony Mule.
It was Vanderstelt all the way though. Got held up a little bit behind Ramsey, as Paris said earlier, making his debut at this racetrack tonight. But it was a fairly comprehensive victory from Vanderstelt in the end. Mule was next, and Chippendale rounding out the top 3 in the 5th race here at the Waikerie Speedway.
Seen some very good racing so far. Moving into race 6, the two wily veterans off the front. Wayne Bunker, Dennis Burford. Burford, of course, gets the outside jump and leads him down the back straight for the first time. Here comes Damien Eve round the outside to take position 2 off Wayne Bunker, but it's only a slightest thing, and Bunker will be right back on the hammer of Damien Eve, as we can see now.
It was a great start by Burford, made a very, very good run into one. So important to get the lead, but looks like a track you can certainly pass on. We see some midfield action here between cars 17 and 27. Evie and Bunker battling it out for the minor positions. Have a look at this run at the front. Burford just scraping it across the line. And that takes us on to the feature race here at Sunline Speedway. Cool night here at the Riverland for this, the final race.
As we can see, the sprint cars giving the salute to the crowd. That's a 3-wide format, traditionally held for 360 sprint cars, and that is the thank you to the crowd for coming out to watch us on such a cold, wintry night.
Such a popular thing in World Series sprint cars, isn't it? You see the 4-wide Knoxville salute they do. Very, very popular. Gets the big crowd on their feet. It's a good crowd here at Waikerie Speedway tonight.
Yes, the atmosphere is electric, and you know, the crowd are on their feet as the cars come round, and they give these guys a big send-off as they come round.
Vanderstelt and Burford on the front row. Mueller's next, then Bunker, Evie, Chippendale, your top 6. So the first 6 cars basically inseparable through tonight's racing. It's been some great heat races, and this will decide the winner for tonight's event here at Sunline Speedway. Now on the lights, a fairly recent innovation here at the track. We'll talk more about that in a little while. Getting ready for a race start though. Vanderstelt and Burford on the front row, 2 very distinctive karts. The Lightning Karts entry of Burford on the outside makes a good run, but Vanderstelt gets the best of them and will lead them into turn 1.
Yes, Vanderstelt down the inside there, and it's all congestion through the front turn, but everyone gets through well. Vanderstelt leads the way, followed by Burford, Mule, looks like Eve, Bunker, Evans, and Chippendale there be the top 8 as they come through. Of course, it's a 10-car race here. Everyone's sorted themselves out quite well. They've got away without any incidents.
Good to see a reasonable sized field here at Waikerie for this race. Vanderstelt out in front. Burford's coming under some pressure though from the cars behind him. So run into turn 1 and move up the inside.
Tony Mule, big desperate dive down the inside. Burford keeps the hammer in.
Side by side down the back stretch as well. So good racing between Mule. Here's a replay. Burford just didn't get much drive out of turn 2.
Sort of bobbled as he got out of there a little, Richard, but Mule was definitely on the gas.
So there's Vanderstelt way out in front of this one. Mule second. Burford dropping back. Car doesn't look as good in this race as it did throughout the heat races in tonight's racing here at Waikerie.
We see the leaders are once again into the lap traffic already.
It's so hard to find a way through lap traffic, isn't it, though? I mean, they play such a role in motorsport these days. You get held up, allows the person behind you to get a bit of a sniff and maybe make a move. Some dicing the back of the field. There's Burford.
Absolutely, here we go.
3 wide through turn 1. The lap car caught in the middle, and almost Evie that was, trying to get a run on Burford as they ran through 1 and 2.
It was very interesting to see. Oh, Eve!
Up the back of Burford's car.
If you don't mind, Sunshine, and he leaves the door open slightly for Wayne Bunker, who's looking for the way through there.
There's a replay. They got through. Eve went on the outside and came together with Bunker in a separate, Burford in a separate incident. Good to see this speedway lit up, Paris Charles, as we have a look at the replay.
Without doubt, Richard. The Sunline Speedway, of course, is evolving all the time. Robbie Stevens, the track promoter there, just recently gone to lights. The venue is improving, and we expect to see bigger and better things next season.
It's great to see the local speedway scene developing very, very well. Meanwhile, Vanderstelt is your race leader at the moment. Mule in second, Eve in third. Burford in 4th place, struggling for pace in the final, which is a bit of a shame because he's been looking very good during the night's heat races. We can take a quick look at Vanderstelt, your race leader, on the back of the circuit.
Vanderstelt making his way through traffic now, coming up on 2 of the slower cars. Daryl Gurin in front. This opens the opportunity for Tony Mule to get right on that rear nerf bar as they shoot down the back straight, coming around to get onto the front straight. It's almost like a... How would you describe that there, Richard? That's got to be frustrating. No way through there.
It's peak hour on Pulteney Street in the city. Have a look at this. A run down the outside. Vanderstelt manages to clear the lap traffic. Still 1 car in front. Not many laps to go in this one. Vanderstelt up the inside.
Vanderstelt's going to need a clear run under him here to get through, and hopefully Mule can be walked down a little. Vanderstelt still trying to make his way through.
He's being
Can he
held up.
do it? Can Mule get onto the back and snitch this win?
He's being held up at the end there. Van der Steldt, though, manages to find a way through, so that might be the break he needs.
Mule made a clear way through, though, so this could be on for young and old in the dying laps.
Van der Steldt, your race leader. Mueller's next. Not many laps remaining. A close-up look of that great-looking distinctive livery on Van der Stelt's car as he runs down the back straight. There's a replay of the move.
Yeah, Mule, you can see that, Van der Steldt there slides straight under Daryl Guerin. Daryl Guerin realising the quick runners are coming through and lets Tony Mule get under him going down the back straight.
So some more action at the back of the field. Van der Steldt and Eve having a bit of a... Burford and Eve having a bit of a battle.
Here we see Eve just making his way into third place there.
The 20-lap feature race here at Waikerie Sunline Speedway.
And
South Australia's Riverland.
The 43 car, of course, Gary Chippendale, the reigning South Australian champion, will be relinquishing his crown at the end of this journey.
Yeah, Chippendale not having a very good race today. He's had some reasonable heat races, but not quite as good tonight in the feature race. Your leader, though, still Van der Steldt. That leader's come out. We're looking at a car on the inside. I think that may well be Chippendale having some dramas.
That might have
there
actually
he is.
even been Simon McKean down there on coming through turn 4 on the infield.
It was Chippendale stuck on the outside of the track. There's Van der Steldt, 31.
A very worthy winner after 20 hard-fought laps out there with Tony Mule right on his hammer all the way, keeping him honest.
A great night racing here at Sunline Speedway. Van der Steldt, your winner. Mule was next, Eve in third. Burford struggled home for fourth, the lack of pace in the final. Bunker was next. Chris Evans rounding out your top 6. So a good night's racing. Paris, thanks for joining us.
No worries, Richard. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great night's racing at Waikerie Sunline Speedway. Well done to Craig Van der Steldt for taking out the Croft Construction 360 Sprint Cars race there. Great night's racing. Your thoughts?
Well, there's only 20 laps. It would have been good to see him go for a little bit longer because I was quite enjoying it to the end there. It kind of stopped. But no, it was good. Some good battles, actually. Some interesting.
Well, you saw the Lightning Kart sponsored all-black sprint car in that. That was driven by Dennis Burford, and Dennis and his son Michael will be joining us in the studio after the break to chat a bit about that round and their speedway careers, as well as the progression from dirt karting, which is a very, very integral part of developing young talent into the realm of speedway as well. But great to see some speedway on Talk TV.
Yeah, again, we're pushing the boundaries and getting a lot of SA sport here at Talk TV, which is good to see.
And special thanks to the people from the Waikerie Speedway for helping us out with the footage there. And also thanks to Paris Charles for coming in to call that. We're going to take a break on Talk TV, Motorsport for your Friday night. We'll come back with much, much more. Karts from Morgan, Dennis and Michael Burford right after this break. More Talk TV after this.
Wanna go for a ride?
More action from Waikerie Sunline Speedway in the 360 Sprint Cars race meeting last weekend. Welcome back to Talk TV. It's Motorsport for your Friday night. Time to check out all the latest in the motorsport news, Louise.
Yes, there is quite a bit. Formula One first. Fernando Alonso set the pace earlier this week in the opening day of testing at Silverstone. The Spaniard clocked a best lap of 1 minute 22.056 seconds on a rain hit day, which is good to see, at the Northamptonshire circuit to finish 0.1 seconds ahead of McLaren's Kimi Raikkonen.
Good to see a return to form from McLaren at the last round at the Nürburgring. We will wrap up that race a little bit later on in the show.
Also good news for BMW with the Williams Formula One team, who has confirmed a new commercial partnership with its Interslat or Interslate or something similar to that, one of the world's leading global satellite operators, earlier this week, which is a good promotional thing for that team. Obviously, they've had so much trouble with the car at the moment. It's good to get something like that down packed. One
thing you notice with the Williams team is no cigarette advertising on it. They're actually sponsored by a Nicorette, an anti-tobacco, I guess, anti-cigarette company. So good to see Williams moving on with some new corporate sponsors for Formula One.
Now, absolutely. For all those Mika Hakkinen fans, there has been that bit of controversy, that bit of talk about that he might come back to Formula One with obviously his old team McLaren. However, the Don Dennis, who is probably the best spokesman for McLaren, said that when he first left, he was assured by the Finn that there was no way he was going to come back, or especially to McLaren. However, there is some talk with the Williams team once again.
Williams in the news a lot this week. Some strong rumours coming out of the Nürburgring that Mika Hakkinen would return to that team. don't know quite what to make of it. There's about 8 drivers that seem to be in running for that seat. Another one's 1997 world champ Jacques Villeneuve. Of course, won the World Championship with Williams, had a couple of unsuccessful years with the BAR team, but talks of a comeback very, very strong. However, Aussie Mark Webber, the latest news from the German paddock is that Aussie Mark Webber is still in the leading position to get that Williams seat, considering Jaguar's troubles this season.
Well, let's hope so. I mean, he did actually get into the points on the last race, but you've got to feel sorry for him.
Moving on to some V8 Supercar news, Avesco have announced that only 35 cars will take the start in this year's Bathurst 1000 race. Allegedly, it's due to the decreased number of pit lane garages and that no Konica teams will take part in the main race. Bit disappointing considering that in the past you've seen a lot of Konica teams make the step up into the main game for the Enduros and have a go, and seeing a privateer do well at Bathurst is a really, really good thing, and it's also a great forum for the new drivers to show their wares up against some established teams.
Well, exactly. There's only so many seats that the top V8 supercars can allocate to, obviously, the Konica Minolta drivers. There are still those drivers out there who don't compete either in V8s or Konica that come in and fill in those seats. So by letting the Konica cars come up, they can obviously open up more seats and give those drives to the young kids, but obviously not.
Well, from some news in from overseas, we had Bronte Rundle from South Australia's team BRM in the studio a couple of weeks ago. They completed their round at the Philippines circuit in Subic Bay. Very, very well. Aussie driver Aaron Karate was doing the driving, had a dodgy set of tyres, didn't qualify too well and ended up 9th in that session. Moved into 5th place during the first race, had a very strong run. The race finished under yellow, which meant Karate did quite well. The second race started 4th, a very competitive run from Team BRM. Unfortunately, the track was blocked. In a pile-up, Aaron recovered and rejoined the circuit in 8th place, which is where he finished. The team have left that car over in the Philippines, so in Asia, I should say. The next round of the championship is in Beijing in August 14 to 18, a couple of months' time. So BRM trying to put some money together to do that program.
Yeah, well, it's good to see that they're going over to the Asia and trying those new prospects with racing. It's good to see.
It certainly is. Now, last week we had V8 Supercar Konica driver Jay Vernick on the show. Bit of an update for you with how he fared at Eastern Creek. Qualified on old tyres, was 17th fastest in the overall times. Eventually qualified 22nd overall. 20th in race 1, showed some good form. Started 12th on the reverse grid in race 2, was running 10th before a crash brought out the safety car. He struggled with a no clutch for the rest of it and ended up finishing in 17th place. Unfortunately, they missed the start of race 3 due to a split hydraulic line. They missed the start by 2 minutes.
Oh, you've got to be biting your nails then, wouldn't you? Be really angry, but what can you do? That's the politics of racing.
But look, good stuff from Jay, and young South Australian doing very, very well in the Konica Minolta V8 Supercar Series. We'll catch up with him a little bit later on in the year. Of course, that series has its final round at Malala Raceway in August.
It does, so it should be a good event. I think there'll be quite a big crowd out there.
Very quickly, some stuff on the World Rally Championship.
Yes, the World Rally Championship. Michelin is hoping that its new TDE gravel tyre, which has been specifically developed for rough and rocky World Rally Championships events, will give its teams a welcome boost in this weekend's rally. Obviously, the Michelin cars have been, a little bit slower on time, so hopefully they're trying to see if the tyres are the problem, and hopefully this will help out. Another thing too, remote service will be introduced at this weekend's round, where these Pacific service zones operate away from the fixed service park. So I think they're allocating 2 mechanics, which are able to give it a 10-minute workover using only parts that are carried on board in between the changeovers. I mean, at the moment, it's obviously only for this round, as they're going to try and introduce it for 2005, depending on how successful it is.
Tough rules in world rallying. Anyway, that's the motorsport news, bringing you up to date with all the latest in the motorsport world. Well, father and son teams aren't a huge common occurrence in motorsport, but we have seen the likes of Jim and Stephen Richards doing very well. Peter and James Brock and Dick and Stephen Johnson, some famous names. Well, South Australia's got their famous father and son team as well. They join us in the studio now. Sprintcar racers Dennis and Michael Burford, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Good to have you on board. Firstly, tell us a bit about what you guys do in the Speedway world.
Basically what we do, we have a 2-car sprint car team, and we compete in the 360 cubic inch, the sprint car class, which is pretty much the second one down from the full open. Yep. It's more of a restricted class. Also, apart from that, we do an extensive go-kart program as well.
Yep.
And Dennis, how did you, you as an individual, really get into the sprint car world? And how did you, were your same reasons push your son into it, or was there other reasons behind that?
Oh, I didn't have to push him too hard. He was right behind me. How did I get in? Well, I think I got in by accident, actually, because I used to, in the late 70s, I used to race a bitumen sedan car at International Raceway. Yep. And it lasted only about 12 months before they actually closed that venue. And I had a car and nowhere to race. So I was a member of the RDA that promoted that activity. So I ended up joining the ranks at Roley Park Speedway. And that was my introduction to dirt racing. So I've stuck around since the 70s. I'm now 58, so I'm probably getting a bit long in the tooth.
Experienced. That's cool.
Well,
experience.
thanks very much.
One thing I do want to get off before we go any further, father and son combination racing against each other on the track. Do you go out and say, I'm going to go out and beat Dad this time? Or do you go out and say, I'm going to beat the young one?
He does say that, and I say that too.
Yeah, we're both very competitive.
Do you think each of you go faster by aiming at each other and improving as a team?
I think you can both use each other as a benchmark, which is an advantage that you can sometimes try and use. But as far as team racing, there's certainly no team orders.
No, that's right. If I leave a gap, he's going to be in there, and vice versa.
Now, you both mentioned at the top of the interview that you're heavily involved with a karting program for Lightning Karts. Obviously, the business. Tell us a bit about Lightning Karts.
Go-karts is our main life. We have a go-kart shop, Lightning Karts, which there we do everything from go-kart manufacturing to engine repairs, modification to retail sales and a bit of wholesale.
And obviously dirt kart races as well. Tell us a bit about your dirt kart program.
Yeah, dirt kart program, we do as many as we can, meetings, but through work and Speedway, we probably end up doing about 12 a year. Race many different classes from the KT100 up to the 200 Open. Both myself, Dad and my brother Mark, we all race. Keeps us very busy.
Now, you both ran at the recent state titles set up at Bordertown. How did you fare?
Well, I ran one class and only average. Michael did very well though.
But I ran 3 classes. Out of the 3, I came away with 1 win, so I was happy with that.
Well done.
Now, for those viewers out there who probably aren't familiar with the whole sprint car concept or don't know too much about the sprint cars, tell us a bit about the cars that you run.
Well, we actually run a 360. There are 2 types of sprint cars these days. We have a 360 and a 372, or commonly known as an open sprint car. Take the engines out of them both, and they're both basically the same sort of car, with the exception that we have a weight limit of about 1450, and the open has a weight limit of about 1275. That's a minimum weight. And we don't run a hydraulic wing. That means, for people that don't know what a hydraulic wing is, that's an apparatus that you can actually lever, you can push backwards and forwards, and as you're going around, that'll push the wing to the back to put more downforce onto the back, or if you're getting too hooked up or you're having trouble steering, you drop a bit to the front. Now, we don't run that in 360s. It's a cost exercise, so that's the only difference in the cars, other than they come back to the engine, and 360 is a formula class. It's a stepping stone to the bigger 372, and we got a program where we've locked a rule in for 5 years. We run a steel engine, a controlled cylinder head. Fuel injection is a regulated size of 2 3/16. So it cost-wise, we'd sort of like to claim that we're about half the cost of one of the other engines, the open engines. So it's a very affordable level for people to get into, and it's a good progression, I think, from go-karts too. And
the Tectoloid 360 Championship in South Australia, sort of the state level of speedway racing in Australia, I guess.
Well, we did a series at Speedway City this year, and it was over about 5 shows, and that's been pretty good for the division. It's given us a lot of coverage. Next year, I believe that will continue. We've also raced around the other tracks as well. We've had a show at Murray Bridge. We've done the Waikerie one, as you just shown, and we've also done Mildura, which is of course not under the South Australian banner, but that's where we had our first national this year, and it's been a fairly good season for us.
And Dennis, in January you actually won one of the 360 races. Tell us a bit about your preparation for the event. Did you go into the event feeling that the car was strong, that you were possibly one of the front runners?
Yeah, well, with 360 racing, it's the good thing about 360 racing is that because we run a regulated engine, like a spec engine, all the engines are basically the same, so it comes down to the driver on the night. Now, you don't sort of get beaten by an engine, you get beaten by a driver in this division. So you actually, if you go out for the first heat and you don't go so good, you think, well, I better go back and do some changes, or give yourself a talking to and say, I'm going to go out and drive harder next time. So, you can sort of make improvements over the night, and, you can sort of try and get yourself stronger and stronger and build yourself up to the feature.
As we saw from the footage from Waikerie, often a lot of it has to do with your luck. There's a lot of accidents here, there, and everywhere. Have you had many problems with that?
Accidents? Yeah.
Feel free to answer this as well.
I think the worst one that I've had was an accident involving a fire. It's been about nearly a month in the hospital, in the Burns department. A fuel fitting came off, and our fuel pumps sit right between our legs.
Yes.
Dangerous place.
What about you, Michael?
I've had, up until this season, I've had quite a good run. Haven't done a real lot of damage, and luckily haven't hurt myself yet. But this season, my luck sort of took a turn for the worse, and damaged a bit of gear, a couple of cars, but hopefully turn that around for next year.
Now, you talked about the progression through the classes, and 360 is probably a bit of a feeder category to go through into the 372s and maybe the World Series sprint cars down the track. Dirt karting, talk a bit about that. I believe you started in dirt karting before you went to the full speedway scene?
Yeah, been dirt karting now for about 18 years. I started in the J, which is the lesser category, and worked my way up through to the 200 Open, which most people class as sort of the elite section in dirt karting. And then making the transition into 360s sprint cars, it's a fairly big jump. Because a go-kart doesn't have suspension, whereas a sprint car has suspension that moves quite a bit, even though it doesn't look like it from the outside. When you're inside, they move quite dramatically. And the thing that go-karts is good for, it teaches you racecraft on how to race and learn how to pass people and race clean.
What about the driving of the kart? Is driving style, can you rub that off from the karting into the sprint car?
You could say in a way as possible. Same thing like I was saying before about learning to race. The style is similar depending on the track that you're racing on.
Would you, if you met a young aspiring sprint car, World Series sprint car driver or World of Outlaw sprint car driver, would you say starting dirt karts, this is where you start, work your way through?
Without a doubt. Yeah, for sure.
Same, Dennis?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it makes you a little bit smoother, I think, driving a go-kart. You don't tend to chuck the car as a sprint car around as much as what you would if you had no go-kart experience.
You've only got a certain amount of horsepower in a go-kart to make it count.
Yeah.
Now, you talked about the successful state series we've been running the last couple of years here in South Australia. Yep. How would you overall assess the strength of the local speedway scene?
Well, with talking general or sprint cars?
Just overall, the local speedway scene.
It seems to be hanging in there. Of course, you've got competition from other entertaining venues these days, haven't you? Poker machines and football and this sort of thing. But I think we hold our own. I think we'll get better, we'll get stronger. And the 360s is going to be very good for Speedway. Very good.
Now, Michael, you've raced 12 races, and on the website it says that you've actually been on the track 25 times between 2003 and 2004. How hard has it been physically to maintain such a consistency out there on the track and trying to continually get the results?
I think as far as the driver goes, it gets easier as the season gets on because you get more race fit. At the first couple of meetings for the year, you always seem to struggle a little bit with fitness and a bit of pace of your own. But it works opposite. I think for the car, as the season gets on, the crew wear thin, and because Speedway is very much a crew, like it's a whole team sport. Without the crew, you won't get out there, so it's pretty demanding.
Can you tell us a bit about your crew? How many do you have in your crew, and what does it involve? How does it involve, and how much time has to be put into the sprint cars?
We generally work probably a couple of days to get the cars ready. for each meeting. Depends, sometimes it may be more, depends on sort of the gap between the meetings. But we normally have about probably half a dozen of people on our crew that they work pretty hard.
Of course, all mainly the Lightning Karts guys.
Generally
from the shop.
Generally from the shop, and also just friends and people that have been with us for a while. Yeah.
Dennis, as a dad,
Yes.
watching your boys race.
Yes.
Satisfying for you to see them go out there and do well?
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, very satisfying, you know. I mean, if Michael passes me and wins, fantastic, you know. And he says the same if I pass him and, you know, I go well. So there's no jealousy or nothing like that. It's we just go out there and just do it, you know, run as cleanly as what we can, keep out of trouble. And boys have been brought up not to go crashing and banging, and, you know, they just don't do that. So they don't drive like that. They don't drive like that in karts or Speedway, and that's very satisfying in itself.
Well, guys, that's all the time we've got. Well, thanks very much for coming in the studio tonight to talk about Speedway, and best of luck with it.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us.
It's a pleasure. Dennis and Michael Burford joining us on Talk TV to talk about Speedway, dirt karting and much, much more. We're going to take a break on the show. Still to come tonight, all the motorsport news from the Indy 500, Formula 1, Champ Car preview for this weekend, as well as a look back at the Konica Minolta V8 supercars. Up next, though, some dirt karting action from the Morgan Dirt Kart Club. They say that grassroots level motorsport isn't passionate. Just have a look at that. Welcome back to Talk TV. It's Motorsport for your Friday night. Richard and Louise with you, taking a look at the dirtier side of motor racing.
It's the dirty side.
No jokes. All jokes aside, if a young driver's looking to go through into rallying, into motocross or speedway like the Burfords before us, dirt karting is probably the way to go. And a couple of weeks ago, we headed out to the Morgan Dirt Kart Club to grab some footage. But Louise, dirt karting's such a great entry-level form of motorsport, much like its bitumen's sister.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very affordable way for new youngsters and the likes to come up and have a good go at it. And it's a different avenue too to the ultimate bitumen racing that everyone loves.
It's hugely popular, and there's a great number of tracks spread right throughout South Australia and indeed Australia. The state titles held just a couple of weeks ago up in Bordertown, believe it or not, and almost 200 karts entered, which sort of shows the popularity of the sport. It's very good.
Well, exactly. It's really exciting, and it can be very much a family event, so it's good to see.
Well, let's take you now to the Morgan Dirt Kart Club. It's just an hour and a half up from Adelaide for some 125cc action. This is a great race.
Ready for some 125cc action at the Morgan Dirt Kart Club. Alexander and Matt Gregor on the front row. Linky and Kurtz are also in this field. So they make a good clean start. Linky's made a great start, moves into second place. Slotting in behind Ryan Alexander as they run into turn number 2. A tight corner. Look at this field. Linky sorting themselves out 3-3. Linky hangs it out wide. 3-4. Good clean start. Linky gets touched by Matt Gregor and spins it round. Linky drops to the back of the field. Matt Gregor to second. Kurtz to the third, Dwayne Blee.
Yes, with clutches on the 125 karts. Good thing you can restart after an accident like that. So lucky he might make up a few more positions if he can get back in the race.
Alexander, your leader. Gregor is next. Kurtz is third. And there's Linky trying to catch up. Alexander, your race leader, though, out in front. Not for very long, though, because he's spun coming out of turn 4. Kurtz has made an advantage. He's got through. Matt Gregor was held up. He is now in second place. And Kurtz, your leader, from third place. Unbelievable stuff there by Alexander. He's dropped back. And a great battle for the lead. Gregor looking for a way through. And Gregor's gone and touched Kurtz around. Kurtz spins out of turn 3, and Greg is your new leader. Well, I think everybody's spun in this race so far, Dwayne.
Well, Kurtz was already on the way around when Gregor came through. He had nowhere to go. That kind of worked to his advantage anyway.
It certainly did. A great battle for the lead here at the picturesque Morgan Dirt Kart Club, side by side. Gregor and Alexander fighting this one out, and these were the two that were in front from the start. So they've taken a trip to the back of the field. They're back up in front now. Alexander trying to find a way through out of the final corner. So they run past the start-finish sweeper. Great battle for the lead. Look at Linky just looking in there, sitting ominously in third place. Close battle between these two, but your race leader is Matt Gregor. Good battle at the front. Alexander tries to get up the inside into turn 4. Can't do it. So important to get a run out of the final corner here, Dwayne.
Yeah, all the power's down the straight and into this first turn. Big, wide, sweeping corner. Suits these karts to a T.
It certainly does. Your leader is Gregor. Alexander is next. These two having a great battle. There's not much in it at all. Look at Linky in the background. Gets sideways. Alexander has a look up the inside. It's a good passing opportunity there. Muscle up the inside and get into it.
Much better line through that corner. Takes the bottom line.
Good run by Alexander. Right up. Oh, touches the back of Gregor's kart. Gregor has a look behind and says, hey, what are you doing? So run into turn 2. This could go any way. Alexander tries the high side into turn 3. It's called the kidney. Alexander looks up the inside. Not many laps remaining in this one.
That look up the inside's cost him a bit of time through that corner, taking the title line. Not ideal.
White flag is out. 1 lap remaining. Not far to go in this one. Can Gregor hold on? A great battle between these two. Alexander is second. The bumps on the inside of 2. Alexander a bit more conservative. Touches the back of Gregor's kart through 3. Gregor had a big slide. Lost a bit of momentum. And Alexander almost loses it through turn 5. Gregor will come off and get the win. What an unbelievable race. Alexander second. Linky recovered for third. And there's Kurtzer. Oh, the shake of the head by the chief starter. Unbelievable stuff.
Well, we said it in the call, an unbelievable race. The 125cc kart from the Morgan Dirt Kart Club. What do you think about that?
It was pretty exciting, actually. It was quite weird to see that the front runners at the start go straight back to the back because of little bingles and whatnot, and they come all the way back to the front and win. You think, oh my God, it's pretty exciting.
Well, doing the commentary for that, every competitor in that race had a spin. Every one of them, and they shuffled their way forward. The leaders spun, went back. Then the next leader spun and went back. It was quite an unbelievable race, but really shows the great side of dirt karting. It's close, it's competitive, but you saw some of the slides that the competitors were holding there. Really great action as well.
Oh yeah, you'd be loving it, seeing how long you can keep it.
The other good thing about dirt karting is, for the most part, a lot of the meetings are run under lights, and it creates a very good atmosphere.
Yeah, you notice too that the track's quite moist, so it's good to see. You've got the possibilities of getting some great times out of it as well.
Well, that's the thing we were talking about before, that the development of drivers for car control, or kart control in this case. Thank you. To get those slides, to catch the slides out of the corner. For a young driver, maybe 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, learning his craft or her craft in the sport, it's a great atmosphere to go out, and it's safe, but it's still quite competitive, and it's great fun.
And it definitely brings back to Motorcana last week that it gives that driver the education to drive, and in cases like you can get here on the wet roads, they can possibly save themselves from a great accident.
Just a bit on those karts we saw racing then. 125cc's water cooled, meaning they've got a nice big radiator stuck to one side of them. They're push button start, which is interesting for a go-kart, and they've got clutches as well. They're like a little race car. Really good little competitive karts, and they're the new developing class in Australian dirt karting. Still to come on tonight's Talk TV, all the motorsport news, previews and reviews coming up. Formula 1, the IRL, we preview Champ Car this weekend. Take a look back at the Konica Minolta V8 supercars from Eastern Creek. There'll be much more Talk TV right after this.
There. Welcome back to Talk TV, Motorsport for your Friday nights. I'm Louise and this is Richard.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, just introduce yourself.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Tonight we've been taking a look at the dirtier side of motor racing, and no, not scantily clad pit babes. Dirt Speedway and dirt karting, and joining us in the studio tonight were Dennis and Michael Burford. Very interesting to talk to. We just saw a great race from the Morgan Dirt Kart Club's 125cc class. Outstanding action, and there's more racing of that coming on this weekend, which we're going to preview for you in just a short amount of time. But we got together with some of the footage we took from the Morgan Dirt Kart Club, whacked it together with some great music, and put together a pretty exciting package that really shows the feel of dirt karting, Louise.
Yes, and we definitely got down and dirty.
That's very good.
Yeah,
very
I
good.
thought so. No.
Let's take a look now at some great action from the Morgan Dirt Kart Club. Well, if that doesn't get you excited about dirt karting, nothing will.
That was
Good stuff. Lots of action from the Morgan Dirt Kart Club's May meeting, that was. They will be racing again this weekend. More about that very, very shortly. Right now, though, as we do this time of the show, we take a look back at the weekend it was in the world of motorsport with our review the last couple of weeks. And we might just kick off with the Konica Minolta V8 Supercars from Eastern Creek Raceway. We've talked about Jay Vernick. Good to see young Jay doing so well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, look, that team have a great future ahead of them. And, of course, you know, it's his first go at Eastern Creek in the full V8. So it was good to see he did quite well. And, unfortunately, he did get a bit of trouble with the mechanical work and all that.
Let's take a look at the Konica Minolta round points. This is overall. Andrew Jones took out the round win. Owen Kelly was next for Dick Johnson Racing's Team Fujitsu. Luke Gilden for Super Cheap Auto Racing. Tony D'Alberto had a great run for independent race cars. Alan Gurr making a return to the championship after riding off a car at the Clipsal 500 in 5th place. Cam McLean, the ex-Level 1 driver, in 6th. Mark Porter, Brad Tilley, Jose Fernandez and Grant Elliott rounding out your top 10 results for Eastern Creek Raceway.
Wasn't it amazing to see Brad Tilley in the Speed FX Racing? That car is actually the ex-car of Mark Winterbottom, the reigning champion of Konica Minolta from last year. So it's about time the car gets some performance out of that team, and he's doing quite well too.
Brad's actually an ex-historic racer. Used to run a Ford Mustang, so same amount of horsepower, slightly advanced dynamics in the V8 supercar. Some championship points overall for you. Luke Jordan continues to lead that championship after 4 rounds down now. Andrew Jones for Brad Jones Racing is next. Cam McLean is 3rd. He's having a good run so far. Dick Johnson Racing's Owen Kelly is 4th on 570 points. Jose Fernandez 5th. Owen Kelly took 2 race wins there. And one of your favourites, Lee Holdsworth, took a race win as well.
Yeah, he did. You know, I saw the results from the first race, and we saw the reverse grid. My money was all on Lee Holdsworth for that second race. You know, he's a very talented driver, so coming from the rear, obviously he did quite well.
Lee was one of the drivers that stuck the car into the wall big time at the Clipsal 500, and the Smith Trucks team had 2 very damaged cars, one of them written off, and that was Gers. Holdsworth continuing though. Great stuff for the Konica Minolta Championship. As I mentioned earlier on tonight, that series wraps up in August at Mallala Raceway, so it should be an exciting climax to that championship. Let's talk about a not quite so exciting championship. It's dulled itself down after an exciting round at Monaco. Formula One Round 7 held at it was a European Grand Prix held at the Nürburgring circuit in Germany. A circuit accused, I guess, of being a little bit dull, but it's always turned on some reasonable races as we take a look at some results. Michael Schumacher, a race winner. The more things change in F1, the more they stay the same. Rubens Barrichello in 2nd, Button in 3rd. Good run by Jensen. Jarno Trulli in 4th place. Fernando Alonso in 5th. Fisichella 6th for Sauber. That's an excellent result. Mark Webber 2 points for Jaguar in 7th place. And 1 Pablo Montoya 8th place, rounding out the final points paying position. Felipe Massa and Nick Heidfeld rounding out the 10. A couple of key people we need to pull from that. Firstly, 3rd place, Jensen Button. That is his 5th podium from 7 races this year.
Yeah, and he consistently seems to get the 3rd position, so we need to get him maybe, well, you'd like to see him a little bit higher.
I would. I'm an unbiased Jensen Button fan, I can tell you. Very, very good young driver, but no one's looking like beating the Ferraris at the moment. They were in a world of their own.
Well, I mean, the thing is, mechanical failure is plaguing the rest of the teams. Even though Michael Schumacher obviously had a bit of problem with an actual, a crash earlier the week, but still, the other teams are really having a problem with it. Look, Takuma Sato, I have great raps on that guy. I keep saying every week he's going to get up there. Look, he was running 2nd for most of that race. Unfortunately, again, mechanical failure. You've got to stop and think, these teams really need to get on the act.
The interesting thing about Sato, I'm glad you brought that up, drives for BAR, same team as Jensen. Jensen's finished on the podium 5 times. Takuma probably could have finished on the podium a number of times. He's the only one who's had the mechanical dramas. He's had 3 engine failures. Of course, you remember the one from Monaco, it was huge, and a very big engine failure at the Nürburgring. Why is it that Sato's car gets the engine, the poor reliability, and Jensen's is fine?
Oh, it's always the number 2 driver. I think they always get, the old spares or, the old...
They claim they don't have number 1 or 2 drivers. I'm not sure. You make up your own mind. Good stuff. Mark Webber, 2 points. Back in the points for Jaguar.
Oh, it'd be good for him. I think, he's probably losing a lot of faith with Jaguar at the moment. I mean, look, unfortunately, he just hasn't gone his way, and it's good to see him getting in the points.
Formula One's next round is in 2 weeks' time at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal in Canada. Always a very popular round. Well, one of the biggest races in the world was held last weekend, or they tried to run it, and they finally did get it going. The Indianapolis 500, one of the greatest spectacles in motor racing. They didn't quite get to 500 miles though, Louise. They got to about 450 miles, only 180 laps completed. Buddy Rice, your winner for Rahal Letterman Racing. Tony Kanaan was second. Dan Weldon third. Brian Herter was next. Bruno Junqueira, the Champ Car driver, in fifth place. Vitor Mira sixth. Adrian Fernandez in seventh. Scott Dixon eighth. Elio Castroneves, two-time winner of this race, in ninth. Roger Yasukawa in 10th place. Interesting race, plagued by rain though, and always the bane for oval races in the IndyCar series.
Yeah, I guess Scott Dixon 2 and 8th. He could have done a bit better maybe. Yeah. I don't know.
There and thereabouts. Wasn't quite on the pace and wasn't quite in the button the whole weekend. Has, although, re-signed a new extended 3-year deal with Target Chip Ganassi Racing, one of the power horses in American motor racing and open wheel racing. So basically rules out his Formula One future though. But Scott's pretty happy where he is. He won that championship a year ago. Interesting race, was stopped about halfway through because of rain. It was originally delayed about 2 hours because of rain as well, but eventually red flagged on lap 180 because of the weather, and Buddy Rice, your winner, although late night TV presenter Dave Letterman, a personal favourite of this host, was very, very delighted with the win, and that's his first win at Indianapolis.
Yeah, well, it's intriguing to see that, such a name can own a team, and it brings in that little bit more exposure, I guess, and media for that team as well.
Well, they've actually changed the name from Team Rahal to Rahal Letterman Racing just for this pure race in that instance, because Dave loves the event, and he told me that personally, of course.
Oh, okay.
I wish. So there you go, the Indianapolis 500. We're going to preview some racing now as well. The Champ Cars are on this weekend. Their third round of the championship, and it's a great season so far.
Well, it's been 2 rounds already. Paul Tracy took out the first round quite convincingly, actually. For me, Paul Tracy is going to be the one that's going to clinch the title. He always seems so strong, except, again, mechanical failures or inconsistencies. Round 2 at Mexico was won by Sebastian Bourdais, but here is the round 3.
No, that's the Drivers' Championship points, actually. Sebastian Bourdais is your leader going into round 3. Bruno Junqueira, his teammate for Newman Haas, is second. PT in third. Patrick Carpentier, his teammate, in fourth. So 2 Newman Haas and 2 Forsyth cars, third and fourth. Mario Dominguez, the Mexican hero, in 5th place. Justin Wilson, the standout of this season so far, in 6th place. Isn't he having a great year?
Oh, well, it's good to see. Obviously, he'd be a bit down from moving from Formula One. That is the pinnacle of open wheel racing, but still, he's doing good up there.
He is. And Justin Wilson, big raps on this guy by Eric Bachelard, his team owner, and he drove from Minardi and Jaguar last season in F1. We know how good he is. He's proven that in Champ Car this season. Next round of the championship is round 3 at the Milwaukee Mile, which is 101 years old, that track this year.
Oh, that's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Unbelievable stuff. Much older than I am. It's the only oval race in the 16-race schedule in the Champ Car series this year, and it's the only night race on the schedule, so it's a very unique event.
Well, I think there's going to be quite a few incidents involving accidents for that race, but my tip's on Paul Tracy.
The rest of the podium, any ideas?
Probably Bruno Junqueira. You can't go past him.
I'm actually liking Sebastian to win 2 from 2. I'm going for Justin Wilson in his first oval race for third. 4th place, or 3rd place, pull a name out the hat. Alex Tagliani. Why not? Also this weekend, the Morgan Dirt Kart Club action. We'll tell you about that in a minute. Let's take a look though, Louise. What's on this weekend?
Motorcycling, Race to the Stars, round 2, Malala Motorsport Park on June 5th and 6th.
This weekend, great to see some bikes back out at Malala Motorsport Park, a good bike track, and remember the days of old seeing the super bikes out there. The Carnacross for HMI Performance Tyres, Carnacross round 1, Saturday, June 6th, tomorrow at Lanark Park, where we were for the Southern Rally. The South Australian Rally Championship racing starts at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Yeah, good event that could be. Go-karts, Morgan Dirt Kart Club, Saturday, June 5th, the Festival State Club Cup, round 3, Bolivar Raceway at Summer Road, Bolivar, Sunday, June 6th.
Yeah,
Spit it out.
Round 3 of the Festival State Cup, that's a great championship. Last round held just a couple of weeks ago at that same track, so good stuff. Bolivar Raceway always turns on the action there. Should be a great meeting. Lots of go-karts, and as I said, dirt karting. If that package we showed you before didn't get you going, I don't know what will. There's hill climbing all over the place right around Australia this weekend. The Colin Grove Hill Climbers on for their multi-club, and multi-club hill climbs in Bossidale in Victoria, Ringwood in New South Wales, Mount Clarence in Western Australia, all this Sunday, but we recommend you get out to Collinggrove. Great place to see some action.
The Australian Rally Championships at Falcon Tyres Rally of Queensland, June 1st to June 6th.
Yeah, this weekend should be a great rally. Next round of the ARC. It's a great championship. I love it. The Premier Racing Series, we saw them at Mullala about a month ago. They're having their second round this weekend at Winton Motor Raceway. And of course, that stars the almighty Formula 4000 Championship, the Trans Am Sports Series, Commodore Cup, HQs, trucks. No, actually, the trucks aren't racing there.
Aren't they?
No, I tell a lie.
Ooh.
But should be great stuff. The Premier Racing Series looking very strong. Formula 4000, I have been told, looking good for this weekend. Unfortunately, South Australia's own Paul Trengove without a drive going into this weekend.
Oh, well, that's some talent gone missing there, I think.
Couldn't get the budget together.
Bad luck.
That's motorsport. There's the cliche of the week, folks. That's motorsport. Well, how have you enjoyed the down and dirty episode of Talk TV?
It's been very fun tonight, actually, in a very nice and subtle way. But there's also one more little notice I want to tell you about.
What's
this boy next to me is having a birthday on Monday, so happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
The first ever birthday wish on TV.
Ah, thank you.
I would sing you happy birthday, but I'm not a singer at all, so I won't do that.
Maybe the boys in the production booth can. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Richard. This
and
is
I'm
Louise.
Louise.
Thanks for joining us on Talk TV tonight. We'll be back from the same time next week. Drive safely, folks. Good night.
Night.